Let's compare where gender dynamics in the United States and broader Western society in comparative to China are at the moment. Even though these two countries are far apart and China has the firewall that protects information from the rest of the world going into China, a lot more information gets into China than one would think. Quite a lot, basically everything. But one thing that is interesting is the role of feminism in both countries. One might say that feminism began in the West earlier than China, but you might also say that feminism took a stronger role in Chinese society earlier than Western society. Sure, Western society gave women the right to vote over 100 years ago, and women went to work about 50 years ago. But the Chinese Revolution, which began in 1949, which was influenced by communism, which itself was influenced by Marxism and ideas of the left, happened earlier than that. And one of the things that Mao pushed for was that women held up half the sky. This is a very famous saying in China, which basically means that women are just as equal as men, and whatever men can do, women can do. In the historical Chinese past, women looked after the home and men went to work. Not too different than Western society, but there are definitely some nuances between the two. And how has this played out in Chinese society in the past 50 years? Well, the population of China became quite big, at least after the famine of the 60s. And as a result of the one-child policy, a lot of families in the 80s, 90s, and O's preferred men over women because of the traditional role that men played in bringing money and going to work in society. And this led to women being killed, or babies, female babies being killed, because families, at least poor ones, could only have one child. And so currently there is a gender difference in China, with men being a lot more than women. And that plays out in a number of ways, in a lot of men not being able to get married. Compare this to America and England and other Western countries, where we have seen three waves of feminism in the past 100 years. Again, women got the right to vote, women got the right to work, and in the past 10 to 20 years, feminism pushed more into questioning what gender is. In traditional society, we believed men were one thing and women were another thing, and that whatever men can do, women can do. Not always 100%, but that is the general message. And so how has this played out in the present time? Well, in China at the moment, there are a lot of women. There was a movement to go their own way. I use Xiaohongshu, where it is dominated by women. It's an app dominated by women. And I spoke with a girl a couple of weeks ago who basically explained her own view on this, that women are tired of being treated one way by men, and in order to kind of get them to wake up, they are not wanting to get married. So similar to where feminism was in the past 20 years, though I wouldn't say that feminism over here said, well, let's go our own way and ignore men. But there's definitely a push and pull in both places. But compare current China to current America. Definitely current America. You could also probably say maybe the United Kingdom and Australia. But a lot of men are concerned that although they have changed, a lot of them have changed for women. They've become more emotional. They've allowed women to go to work, allowed women to do whatever men can do. They feel like they've changed for women, but a lot of them feel that women have not changed for them, in terms of women still view men in traditional ways. They still want a man to be strong. They still want a man to earn more money than them. And a lot of men also are concerned that although society over the past 10, 20 years has taught them to be a bit more emotionally available, when we actually do this in real life, a proportion of women still find that unattractive, I myself know people who have been dumped by their girlfriend because they became emotionally vulnerable. And so the role of traditional society is still playing its part in modern society. And of course, there are still men who want a traditional woman, and definitely there are still sexist men out there. So everything is quite complicated. I myself view that China is in a different place than America because of the different role of the population of different genders in both countries, but there is a similar dynamic happening though on other sides, women going their own way in China and men going their own way in the West. How will this play out? Personally, as somebody who believes in Hegel and that history goes in phases of three, with a thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, I believe we are currently in a antithesis phase, with the last phase being the feminist phase and this phase being the pushback for that. What will that end up? We'll probably end up somewhere in the middle in the next phase, where perhaps both women and men have changed for the better, but we could also see ourselves going back to more traditional ways, as there is a movement among Gen Z to push for more traditional lifestyles. What do you think?